The El Conservador Radio Show is sponsored by the Federation for American Immigration Reform and George Rodriguez on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. Time for the El Conservador Radio Show with George Rodriguez. George is a constitutional conservative who loves to expose fake news and liberals. And now, El Conservador, George Rodriguez.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you on this December the 28th, 2024, this Saturday, the last Saturday of the year, my friends. It's been a good year. By and large, particularly the last 2 months, have been excellent. I'm hoping that you had a wonderful Christmas. I'm hoping that you had a safe Christmas. And I'm certainly hoping that you're going to have a safe New Year's. New Year's can be very, very volatile, particularly on the roads. I was recounting to a friend of mine the other day that the number of car wrecks in San Antonio, I mean, it is incredible. The number of fatal car wrecks also is incredible. And that all of that is due, my friends. Do you realize, those of you that are in San Antonio, we're talking about a city of 1.5 million, that those of you in San Antonio have, we have barely 30, maybe 20 traffic police officers on the road at any given moment. That's how understaffed the city is on police officers on the road, on their traffic division. It is incredible. And that is, again, due, my friends, to the fact that the city is a liberal city that cares more about trying to find non-lethal, as they put it, ways to get things done. And in the process, all they've done is given criminals, given people who don't care about the law, the ability to break the law even more so. Speedsters all over the place, speeding all over the place, drunk drivers. And heaven help the police officer that pulls somebody over and gives them a ticket, because these people are so disrespectful. So, we are taking our lives in our hands in San Antonio in so many ways. Please have a safe New Year's Day, New Year's Eve. Okay, so let me tell you real quick about who our guests are. We have 3 of them today, 3 very, very good guests. We have, first of all, Mr. John Lott, who is a writer, researcher, and he's going to be chatting, my friends, about the issue of an investigation that he did into a terrorist attack in Chicago. Many people do not know what happened, but it was a terrorist attack in Chicago that occurred a few months ago. An illegal alien Muslim, illegal alien Arab, attacked a Jew, a Jewish man who was going to synagogue on Saturday in Chicago, attacked him and killed him. And he did it in the name of Allah. Yeah, they do everything in the name of Allah. So he did that in the name of Allah. And clearly it is a terrorist attack. However, very little was said in the national news. And you're going to hear what John Lott has to say about it. Our next guest is Mr. Tom Bensman with the Center for Immigration Studies, another very, very good friend. He also is going to be talking about this same attack, this from a different angle. He's going to be chatting about how it is that so many people have gotten into our country, my friends, completely and totally unvetted. We are sitting on a powder keg, and Todd is going to be explaining that to you. Our final guest is Mr. Brent Smith. I had to get Brent on the show because Brent is an individual who was on our program from the very, very beginning, from when we first started our program. Brent is the county attorney for Kenny County in West Texas. Kenny County, my friends, is Brackettville. It is a border county, and it is the first county, in my opinion, that started sounding the alarm about how bad things were getting on the border, about how bad things were getting, the trespassing, the destruction of property, the danger to people. All of that was coming out of Kenny County very, very early on, 4 or 5 years ago. even before the Biden administration took over. And then when the Biden administration did take over, it became like Katie by the door. I mean, it got just so bad. Well, I had to get him on because now that the Trump administration will be coming on, I had to get his take on what he anticipates will happen, what he anticipates might be changing in the next few months, hopefully in the next year or so. So those are our guests today. I wanted to get started, first of all, with a quick commentary. Okay, so let me tell you, first of all, I wanted to talk to you real quick about some of the arguments that are now becoming very, very prevalent, my friends, around the country as the Trump administration begins to take form on its actions against illegal immigration, on curbing illegal immigration at the border, as well as doing something about the 20 or more million illegal aliens that have entered the country in the past 4 years. And of course, there's lots of arguments. You can't do this. You can't do that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. Nobody really said anything. None of these people that are saying no, you can't, ever said anything about no, you can't when the invasion was going on. So let me answer a few points real quick about this issue. You can take notes. I encourage you to. I'm also going to put this out on a video so that people can read it, listen to it, and take notes about it. But here goes. Number one, that we need immigrants to work in America, to do the work that Americans will not do. Well, I've got news for you, my friends. Americans must be encouraged to work what is called lower class jobs. And they can be if you raise the wages, improve the working conditions, and lower, my friends, this is a very touching one, lower the incentives not to work, such as unemployment benefits. If you lower the incentives not to work, people will go back to work, and they will work and do the jobs that illegal aliens are doing. Stop hiring the illegal aliens, raise the wages, provide better working conditions, and lower the incentives not to work for Americans. Then there's the issue, my friends, number two, mass deportations, that mass deportations are going to hurt America's economy. Well, again, people who say this didn't mind the mass invasion, okay? There was a mass invasion going on. Nobody said too much about the American economy at that point, about it being cheapened, about labor being cheapened. People who also say this want cheap labor. Why not stop complaining about this and support replacing illegal alien labor with legal labor, okay? Instead of complaining about illegal aliens being removed from jobs, how about just support the idea of legal immigrants coming in and doing those jobs, okay? Number three, we cannot divide families with deportation. Interesting. Legal aliens made that decision. Illegal aliens made the decision to enter the country illegally and understood the consequences and dangers. But now they do not want to be punished for breaking the law? I mean, they knew what they were getting into. They knew. And, as Tom Homan has said, families can be deported together to avoid separation. So there's always that. But this whole idea that you cannot deport families because they're going to be separated, you can't deport one of them because they're going to be separated, not true. Not true. Number four, children brought to America illegally should not be deported. Okay, this is the whole DACA argument. But my friends, again, an illegal alien, regardless of the age, is an illegal alien. That's the harsh truth. Okay? Then there's the issue that regardless of that age, we must not reward illegal immigration by the use of children to enter illegally and then stay indefinitely. Adults do that all the time. That's why you've got all these little kids coming across the border by themselves. Because historically, we have rewarded the adults and allowed them to stay. Now, mass deportations, number five. Mass deportations are impossible. Well, I got news for you, my friends. Mass invasion wasn't impossible. So let's do the reverse. You know, let's fund organizations to help us move people out of the country, just like we were funding organizations to move people into the country. Let's do it likewise in reverse. Also, the people in the news who now claim that mass deportation is impossible are the same people who said that there was no mass invasion going on. Remember that? Number 6, we cannot deport innocent immigrants. Okay? They throw around that word immigrant. Well, I got news for you, my friends. An illegal alien is not innocent. An illegal alien is someone who broke immigration laws, and they must be punished, period. An illegal alien, all illegal aliens must be deported. Otherwise, there's no respect for the law. What's the point of having a law? Number 7, we need to fix the immigration system. Yes, but the immigration system needs to be simplified. If you break it, you get deported. It's that simple. It has been broken, my friends. The system has been broken and complicated by politicians who want to do everything for everyone. People who break immigration laws must be punished to prevent the ignoring and disrespecting of the laws. They've got to be punished. Immigration laws must be enforced before there are any benefits or amnesty or exceptions. Immigration laws must be enforced, period. Number 8, they claim that we need to give amnesty to undocumented aliens in America. Well, my friends, again, I got news for you. Amnesty rewards illegal immigration, and amnesty allows an illegal alien to stay in the country and then gives them what they want, citizenship. We cannot. Amnesty encourages more illegal immigration. Amnesty does not punish illegal immigration, and we need to do that to stop it. We cannot have more amnesty because amnesty rewards illegal immigration. Let's remember that. Then, of course, my friends, there is the issue of sanctuary communities, sanctuary laws in cities and counties and states. If a community, my friends, or a state excuses, tolerates, and protects illegal immigrants, illegal immigration, you got to ask yourself, what other types of illegal activities do they excuse and protect? Sanctuaries pick and choose which laws they will and will not obey and enforce. That's wrong. That is very, very wrong. The federal government has to punish, my friends, sanctuary cities and states for not enforcing federal laws. Imagine if a state refused to enforce the IRS laws, that we didn't have to pay IRS taxes. Imagine that. What would happen? What would happen? Okay? Think about it. The federal government has got to punish these sanctuary cities and states for not enforcing the laws. And citizens of sanctuary cities and states, they need to demand that their taxes not pay for assisting or facilitating illegal immigration. It is incumbent upon the citizens to speak up and say something about sanctuary communities. It's that simple. If America, my friends, in closing, if America tolerates, excuses, and rewards illegal immigration, we're going to get more and worse of it. That's what's going to happen, my friends. We're going to get more and worse illegal immigration. I'm going to put this out on my webpage, as well as I'm going to mail it to my email it to my mailing list. If you are interested, my friends, please contact me through social media, and I will get you a copy of this so that you can argue, to your friends and neighbors, to your liberal associates and family members, that illegal immigration is against the law and that it must be punished. And you can go right down the list. Write down their arguments, my friends, because there is no argument. There is no excuse for illegal immigration. Once again, my friends, I want to thank our sponsor, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, for making our show possible today. And to all of you who are listening, thank you for joining us and tuning in. Let's go to our first guest, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio. And we've got a new guest with us, my friends. We've got Mr. John Lott, Dr. John Lott, because he has a PhD in economics from UCLA. He is president of the Crime Prevention Research Center, and which does research and education on crime and public safety, among other things. I wanted to get him on because lots of talk this past week regarding the Tren de Agua arrests that took place in Aurora, Colorado, even though people were saying that it was not a big deal. Martha Raddatz on ABC made the comment that it was only a few apartment complexes that were being affected. But we wanted to get Dr. Lott on to talk about his article about the cost of crime by these illegal aliens. Dr. Lott, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Tell us about your article. What did you find? What is it that you think is going on?
Well, about a month before the election, ICE, the Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Service, had a letter to Congressman Gonzalez in Texas, where they basically acknowledged that of the 7.4 million so-called non-detained individuals that they had processed and let into the country, they had discovered that about 662,000 of them had criminal records in their home countries. That's 9% of the ones that were processed. Now, what you have to realize is that's kind of an underestimate of the problem, because about most of those who were in the non-detained group, were about 80% were people who had voluntarily turned themselves in at the border. Only 20% were ones that had been caught by the Border Patrol. And presumably the ones who voluntarily turned themselves in at the border aren't the ones that you're going to be most concerned about with regard to trying to hide a criminal record that they have. You have, of course, what that doesn't include are the so-called gotaways, people that we see coming across the border and we don't catch, which are about 2 million under the Biden administration. And what it also doesn't include are the ones that we never even see coming across. Most of the border agents, the vast majority who had previously been guarding the border, have been pulled off to handle processing during the Biden administration. And on top of that, it's recently come to light that about 30% of the passive monitoring systems that we've had on the border, cameras, for example, have been not working and were not being repaired by the Biden administration. So you have large portions of the border where we can't even catch the so-called gotaways because we have no way of monitoring or observing whether people are coming across those parts of the border. And those groups, the 2 million gotaways and the ones that we never count because we aren't monitoring those parts of the border at all, are presumably ones that we have a lot greater concern about. But so if you just take the 662,000 that we were processed and released in the border, but only later discovered had criminal records. And that's probably an underestimate also, because it's requiring ICE to do that, and ICE doesn't have access to the same types of databases that the customs people have. What you find is that, if you just assume that they commit one crime in the United States that's similar to the crime that they're listed for in their home countries, and the list that we have just lists one crime for each of those individuals, and the most serious. So they may have committed a murder and a rape. Well, it's only going to be listed as a murder there. What you find, the National Institute of Justice has put together kind of a cost of victims from crime. So that would include things like medical costs, lost wages, the cost of emergency services for the individuals, pain and suffering. If you add up those estimates that the National Institute of Justice has put together, and just assume that they commit just one crime similar to what they did in their home country, you're talking about $166 billion in costs in today's dollars. So, it's a non-trivial cost that's there that's being imposed on the victims, and that's probably another underestimate there.
Give us that figure one more time of the cost.
It's $166 billion. One other caveat I should mention is that the National Institute of Justice hasn't figured out the costs of victims for all the crimes that are listed for these individuals that were released, these so-called non-detained people that had criminal records in their home countries. It's only about half of the list of crimes, so that's yet another reason to believe that $166 billion is a significant underestimate of the total cost to victims.
Now, one of the things, for example, here in San Antonio, when a person is arrested by the San Antonio police, the city police, they are not asked whether or not they are documented or non-documented. It's not until they get over to the county jail is there any question about that. Doesn't that, a lack of that information or statistics, isn't that a bad thing? I mean, shouldn't we know how many crimes they are committing?
Well, there are lots of reasons for doing it. Look, if you have a bigger problem in some area, you're going to put more resources to try to stop it. And so, sure, it's always good to have more information on something like that. You want to make sure, generally, that you measure the amount of crime well, because if there's more crime, and the reason why the Department of Justice put together these numbers on measuring the victimization, the cost of victims of crime, is that if it's a big number, presumably you want to spend more on policing and the legal system. If it's a small number, you're not going to be quite as concerned about it. And $166 billion, which, as I say, is a very conservative estimate for the reasons we went through, seems like that's a substantial amount of money in terms of the cost that victims that bear from crime.
Well, there's also the issue of I had a relative who was in a fender bender with an illegal alien whose car was not insured, who didn't have insurance, the car was not inspected, they didn't have a driver's license, and then we wonder why our insurance premiums go up.
Yeah, sure. Well, no, right, exactly, and these numbers that I'm giving don't include things like that. So, no, those are real costs. Not just costs in terms of the actual damage to the car, but your relative there had time that they had to spend to go and take the car into the shop. They had time that they had to go and spend, maybe they had to figure out a way to get to work if their insurance didn't cover a rental car for them. All those costs. And if they have to go through their insurance company, it means they're going to be paying a higher insurance premium, not just people in general in the area, if you have more uninsured motorists driving around, but they in particular are going to pay an even higher rate.
Now, what is your recommendation? What is your conclusion regarding this? And we've got about a minute to go here.
Well, as I say, my job is just to try to go and measure different things so that people who make policy can decide that this is whether this is a significant problem or not. And I would at least to me, $166 billion seems like a significant cost that's being imposed on victims. And again, it's an underestimate for many reasons, but those are Americans that face real damages, everything from medical costs to lost wages to pain and suffering. Those are costs that, they're likely not going to be reimbursed for in any way.
You got it. And that's an economics issue, very, very much an economics issue that's under the radar, in my opinion. Dr. Lott, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell the folks where they can follow you. Tell them where your website is.
People can find more on the types of issues that we're just talking about, as well as other things, at our website at crimeresearch.org, crimeresearch.org.
You got it. And, of course, it is a 501c3, folks, so donations are always appreciated. Dr. Lott, we got to get you back on sometime soon to talk more about these issues, as well as the Second Amendment. I would really like to pick your brain about a judge up in Illinois that a few months ago said that illegal aliens could carry guns. Very fascinating to me.
Okay. All right.
Have a good one.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio.
The Federation for American Immigration Reform, known as FAIR, fights to restore common-sense border controls and immigration policies that work for America and its future. America's immigration system and border controls have been decimated by Washington politicians and special interests, undermining the interests and security of the American people. FAIR mobilizes grassroots activists to make sure the voices of the American people are heard in Washington. Find out more about FAIR and what we do by going to fairus.org.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio. And we've got our good friend, Mr. Todd Bensman, with the Center for Immigration Studies. Here at the end of the year, I wanted to get Todd to talk to us about a very disturbing incident that occurred in Chicago, as well as what he has seen this past year and what he thinks is going to be happening next year, particularly with these sanctuary cities that seem to be screaming resistance already. Todd, thank you very much for taking time during the holidays to come with us, to come on our show. Tell us about this incident that you investigated up there in Chicago.
Sure. It was a terror attack on October 26th. Mauritanian who crossed the border in March of 2023 illegally, and he was waved through like millions have been over the last 4 years, ends up in Chicago and decides to attack Jews, Orthodox Jews. Looks like he was gonna wipe out or do a massacre of some sort at a synagogue in the Skokie area. And on his way there, he came across an Orthodox Jew and shot him in the back. And that led to a lengthy shootout with the police, fired on police. He came out of an alleyway and attacked them, tried to kill the paramedics that were tending to the wounded man he just shot. Hit the ambulance, and finally the police returned fire and wounded him critically, and they were able to take him into custody.
Wow.
Later, the authorities found that this Mauritanian border crosser, that his phone was filled with jihadist, pro-Hamas, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel material. The state of Illinois charged him with terrorism under the state terrorism statute. But before the case could get very far, he hanged himself in jail. So we won't really see justice served here, and we won't really learn what we needed to know about this case. Apparently, the very first kinetic terror attack on U.S. soil by a border crossing jihadist. Wow. There in Chicago.
Now, you had covered also an incident in Virginia at a military base with a truck. Similar situation with somebody sneaking into the U.S.?
Yeah, that's the Quantico base attack. That case was odd because the two Jordanians, show up with packages to be delivered onto the base at Amazon, from Amazon, and they were told to wait. They didn't have proper ID, and apparently they hit the gas instead, and they were arrested for trespass. Now, that case looked like a terror attack, very much so at the beginning, but the government would not talk about it. But in more recent weeks, the government has filed motions saying that it was not a terror attack, that they just misunderstood the directions. So, hopefully it was not. But what was odd about that is that the government had many, many opportunities, including, 5 different requests from congressional lawmakers for information, and that all went ignored. And every opportunity to say that went ignored all the way up until relatively recently. So they left it out there like that on purpose, I think. I don't know why. But now they're saying it was definitely not a terror attack. So they're on the record at least saying that.
Now we have seen criminals, illegal alien criminals, surfacing all over the place. Most recently on a subway in New York, where a Guatemalan burned a lady this past weekend. I mean, how many terrorists are out there, do you think?
I mean, we just don't know. I mean, we have this Mauritanian who conducted a terror attack. We had the FBI roll up 8 Tajikistani border crossers recently in a multi-state, very aggressive undercover wiretap counterterrorism investigation. Instead of charging anybody, though, they deported them so that there would not be a trial. So everybody's kind of forgotten about the Tajikistani 8. We had a case where an Iraqi asylum seeker plotted to bring in 4 or 5 Islamic State assassins to kill George W. Bush. He was rolled up and charged for that crime. We have had 400 plus people on the terror watch list, but we've also had a lot of them not apprehended and accidentally released in the complete chaos of the swamped border. So, and 2 million gotaways to boot. So we really have no idea whether there are more Abdullahis like the one in Chicago, the attacker in Chicago, or we just don't know. But hopefully, we'll find out and get them deported here pretty soon.
Now, the incoming administration, particularly with Border Czar Tom Homan, is making a lot of serious noise about a lot of comments about deportation and roundups, et cetera, which has the left and the liberals just freaking out. But at the same time, they are also digging in their heels and talking about sanctuary communities and protecting, their words, protecting migrants. What do you foresee in the coming weeks?
Well, the administration plans to return to normal governance, which means, we're going to deport people who have orders for deportation, judicial orders. Then we're going to find criminal aliens wherever we can and get them deported. And then beyond that, anybody who's here illegally would be put in proceedings and lawfully deported in a humane way as well over the next 4 years. That's kind of what Obama used to do, and Bill Clinton and regular Democrats, everybody used to do that all the way up until Joe Biden, who for the most part, suspended any kind of normal law enforcement. So this is a return to normal, but because there are so many more illegal aliens in the country, such a vast number, even the New York Times finally, after 4 years, came out with an article and said, this is the greatest mass migration crisis in U.S. history, the biggest ever. Took them 4 years to say that. I wrote a book on it 2 years into the thing. That gives you an idea of how belated they are. But so if you have big numbers who came in, you're going to probably have big numbers that are going to go out. That's what they mean by mass deportation. Yeah. So, but it's going to take a little while to gin it up because the Biden administration really systematically dismantled the detention space. Got rid of detention areas for families and unaccompanied minors, and reduced bed space to somewhere around to about 40,000, where we need over 100,000, maybe 150,000 to do this right. So it's going to take a little while to get it all online. But in the beginning, we're going to go, it looks like, for criminal aliens in a concerted way, and those 1.4 million that have judicial orders that are pending on them, they've exercised every appeal that they have, and this is, it's time to go.
That's amazing. It really, really is disturbing what we have seen the past 4 years, and now they're acting like these people are the victims, and how they are absolutely going to defend their rights, as they put it. It's going to be a very, very interesting initial part of this administration, I think. What else do you see, if anything, that might be coming down the road?
Well, probably on the very first day, we're going to see a cessation of the CBP parole programs, CBP 1 parole programs. Those will end on the first day. No more flights coming in. The administration is desperately panicking to get as many in as they can before January 20, even though the American people have very noisily made their feelings known about this. They don't like it. They're getting as many in as they can across the bridges under CBP 1 parole. They're just letting them in to create difficult facts on the ground to be removed later. But those programs will be ended, so there won't be any new ones coming in. And they'll put Remain in Mexico into place so that anybody who they catch can be promptly put back in Mexico to wait their asylum claims there. And they'll be doing detentions and expulsions in other ways at the border as well, so that people who are contemplating coming in are going to realize that they're going to lose their smuggling money if they try it. There's a good chance that they'll lose their smuggling money if they try it, which is the calculus for deterrence.
Yeah. So
I think we're going to see the numbers crossing fall below 1,000. You'll know it'll be working well if it's 500 a day border wide or less, and all 500 will not be allowed in. They'll all be put in detention and removed. So don't worry, even if it's 500 a day, not very many of them are going to be allowed to stay. And so that way you'll at least close the border.
Wow. This situation with the CPB-1, it has been just such under the radar, such a program that's been such under the radar, and it's brought in, it's been legalized smuggling, I guess we could call it.
Yeah, so this is if you got a cell phone, you apply on an app down there for permission to enter instead of illegally to be brought in over the land ports or flown in to be allowed to fly over the border. almost 2 million people they've let in that way.
Wow.
And so these are not small, insignificant programs. They're absolutely historic, major, massive admissions programs for basically economic migrants. It's economic migration.
Right.
Virtually none of them are in need of humanitarian protection.
Right. Literally everybody that I have interviewed out at the migrant center here in San Antonio, none of them have ever said that, they're fleeing religious or political persecution. They're all coming for a good life.
That's right.
So, incredible.
That's not a basis for asylum or humanitarian parole.
That's right. Well, my friend, we're going to let you go, but tell the folks where they can follow you, because I'm sure that things are going to continue to be very, very interesting in the coming months.
Yeah, you can. I work for the Center for Immigration Studies, CIS.org. You can find a lot of my work there. You can go to toddbensman.com to sign up for my newsletter, free newsletter. Tell you when I'm publishing something new. I've got 3 pieces, a series coming out for my recent trip to Chicago to investigate the border crossing terror attack. So look for that around the second week of January.
You got it. My friend, thank you very, very much. Folks, we've been speaking with my good buddy, Mr. Todd Bensman from the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd, thank you very much for taking time in the middle of the holidays. Have a Merry Christmas, my friend, and a Happy New Year.
You too. Thank you.
Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio. And we've got my good friend, Mr. Brent Smith, who is the county attorney in Brackettville, and for Kenny County, which is in West Texas. Now, it's important to note that Brent was at the very, very front, my friends, of alerting people about the problems that were happening to residents and to counties in along the border early on. And now he's kind of a veteran of this, so I wanted to get him on to chat with him about what it looks like in the as a result of the election a couple of months ago. Brent, thank you for taking time. Welcome to the show, buddy.
No, good to be here, George.
All right. So tell us, well, first of all, you guys, you in particular, but Kenny County was at the very forefront of raising the alarm about what was happening at the border. What do you see now in light of the election?
This has been a pretty, bumpy ride at times, but, something to look back at where, I remember you were there on day one in Kenny County when we declared a local state disaster and expanded to Operation Lone Star eventually. And then, it became a nationwide issue, and then it became an election issue. And it took a while, but I believe this is the type of issue that Americans see is a national issue for border security. And it was definitely a referendum on the current policies that are in place now. And, people want border security. People want their government to enforce the law and protect their residents. And, it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. And I believe what you saw at the election was just that. And I believe President Trump, he's going to be coming in, I think, with a lot of different policies that are currently in place now. The plans that he's put in place, I believe, are going to incorporate a lot of local and state law enforcement in his deportation plans. And they have this thing under the Department of Homeland Security called 287G agreements, which is a statute under the immigration law that authorizes state and local law enforcement to assist ICE in enforcing immigration laws. And I believe that the operation will likely have a lot of those 287G agreements in place because, in reality, George, trying to get, if we had $1 million to hire Border Patrol agents, you're looking at a year and a half until they go, train, go to school, and then hit the ground. We don't have a year and a half. We have about 3 weeks. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of 287G agreements to expand the personnel of ICE and DHS and get this operation going. But the first thing he's going to have to do, which the easiest thing to do in all of this, is first securing the border, the river. The difficult part is going to be the cartel infiltration of this country and rooting out everything within. That's going to be the more difficult part, and where you're going to have to see, state and local law enforcement step up and aid DHS in doing just that. So, it's going to be a big task to handle, but we're ready for it in Kenny County.
Now, being in Kenny County and being at the front line is one thing. What do you think when you hear somebody like the mayor of Aurora, Colorado, first deny that there are any problems with illegal alien criminals, specifically the Tren de Aragua folks? What do you feel what do you think when you hear them say that there are no problems, and then, in the case of Chicago, that they want to defend them?
It's a political stance. It's political rhetoric. That's their talking points, and they're going to stick to them. And, some might wonder, how much does the house have to be on fire before they actually, admit what the reality is? You and I both know that Aurora, Colorado is one of the major hot points for, the TDA gang from Venezuela. And they're in multiple states. But how can you be a mayor or someone that, leading a local government that can deny what's actually going on the ground and your residents are suffering for it in return?
to me, that's it's a shame. I mean, they've taken an oath to protect their citizens and enforce the law, but yet they're not doing that. They're putting their citizens in second place. And to me, that's offense for removal of office, I think.
Now, tell us about this situation you recently had with a criminal alien, arresting and detaining him, and then putting a bond on him. What did you do, and why did you do that?
Yeah, we had an arrest in Kenny County. There was a criminal alien that was, tied to the Mexican mafia cartel and gangs. And, looking at his criminal history, it was extensive. And so when he got arrested, a magistrate sets a bond. I believe his was about, I think it was like $5,000 or $2,000 maybe. And, if he pays that bond, he gets out of jail until trial. But one thing a bond does is it considers their flight risk and their endangerment to the community if they do get out of jail. And to me, he posed a danger to not only Kenny County, but the rest of Texas and the United States. So I raised his bond. I filed a motion in the court to raise his bond to $200,000 cash bond. And so he won't likely be seeing the outside of his jail cell anytime soon. And then when he does, the first person who's going to be greeting him is Tom Homan when he does get out of jail. So, and this was, it kind of hit me dealing with this case. And this is probably one of the first cases I want to be dealing with where I know probably for a fact that once he gets out of jail, I don't have to worry about him being released back to the public because I know Tom Homan's going to be in charge of him at that point.
I mean, I can't help but giggle about that situation when I think about the social justice that happens in places like Los Angeles where they're refusing to do anything about these criminal aliens.
Well, and George, that's what a prosecutor's supposed to do is look at someone that's arrested that you're fixing to prosecute, and if he's in danger, if he's going to endanger the public, you want to make sure he doesn't endanger the public. And prosecutors up north are filing motions to lower the bond. That's the direct opposite of what they should be doing for someone that's going to endanger your constituents. So, I filed the motion to increase his bond to $200,000 cash, not a bondsman, but a cash bond. And I highly doubt he's going to be getting out of jail unless he comes up with $200,000. So he'll be sitting in there until he serves his time on the criminal trespass and evading arrest he was picked up on. Excellent.
Brent, we're gonna let you go, but is there anything else that you'd like to add before we let you go, buddy?
I think, George, one thing it's going to be important to point out, and I know I kind of harp on the Texas state laws stuff, but right now in our legislative session, there's been several bills filed. One of them, just recently, it was a bill filed where it would allow Texas residents, if they're injured by an illegal alien who was released due to a sanctuary city policy from Dallas or Houston, that person that was injured can now sue the city of Dallas and Houston.
Excellent.
For being injured if the bill passes. So I think, one of the things we have to keep in mind and be proactive about is getting laws passed and policies in place that are going to combat the sanctuary city stance, because they're not going to be happy with President Trump, carrying out his deportation operation. They're going to put every obstacle in place that they can. So us on our side, we have to make sure we put up everything we can to prevent that. And so I think the state legislative session starting in January is going to be important for the state of Texas and moving forward.
It makes absolute sense to hold them responsible for their negligence, in my opinion. I think that's perfect. I really do.
Absolutely.
Brent, thank you very, very much. My friends, we've been speaking with my good friend, Mr. Brent Smith, the county attorney for Kenny County, which is in West Texas, which is Brackettville. Thank you very much, Brent, and you have a good one. We'll get you back on as the new administration takes over.
Sounds good, George. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Once again, my friends, George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you here at the end of the year. Thank you very, very much for making this such a successful year for us, my friends, for listening in, for supporting our show. I hope that you will continue to listen in. I hope that you will continue to follow us on social media, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on TikTok. I hope that you will continue to follow us And if you want, contact us through social media, and I will be glad to share our newsletter with you. We will be producing a newsletter as well as a local podcast this coming year. And for those of you who are interested, please let us know. We will be able to provide you that information. We'll be able to email it to you. Once again, thank you very, very much. I hope that you're having a good holiday season. I hope that you have had a very merry Christmas. I hope that you will have a safe, happy New Year. Once again, my friends, I have got to repeat it again. The number of police officers in San Antonio is ridiculously low thanks to our liberal city government. Our liberal city government has refused to turn police officers loose on criminals and to hire more. They hire a few here and a few there. But, my friends, San Antonio is over 1.5 million. And right now, the staffing of police officers is more akin to a city half that size. That's how few police officers we had. Then they wonder why there are so many wrecks and problems on the streets, shootings. My friends, it's not a good situation. So once again, my friends, thank you very much for joining us. Keep us in mind for next week. We will be back, same show, same station. And I want to thank again our sponsor, the Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR. Until next week, my friends, be safe and keep up the fight for America. George Rodriguez, El Conservador, talking to you from San Antonio.
The Federation for American Immigration Reform, known as FAIR, fights to restore common-sense border controls and immigration policies that work for America and its future. America's immigration system and border controls have been decimated by Washington politicians and special interests, undermining the interests and security of the American people. FAIR mobilizes grassroots activists to make sure the voices of the American people are heard in Washington. Find out more about FAIR and what we do by going to fairus.org.